how do we move quantum computing from scientific milestone to measurable business value? It's not an easy question to answer. When I first started covering this tech several years back, a fair number of even the physicists themselves who were charged with building such machines doubted the feasibility of the whole idea. That's no longer the case today, but in comparison to things like artificial intelligence, the bar for quantum remains almost impossibly high.
To be considered as a proven quantum application, you need to be able to prove it pen and paper without the hardware, to prove that the quantum algorithm will do something no other classical computers can do. If you had the same bar for AI, there would be no AI at the moment, because no one can prove why those neural networks learn so fast.
This week, I'm joined by two European founders at the center of this work. We're on stage at Web Summit, Europe's largest tech conference. I'm Jennifer Strong, and this is Shift.
Now here on the steering column is a device called Auto Cruise. You simply set the speed you want.
Self-driving robo-taxis are already on the road in US cities.
As the disk rotates, a mirror reflects the light in the way that depends on how the signal was recorded.
This is the 100 terabyte. I present to you Electro, the Moto Man.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I would say that one of my greatest skills is my ability to interact with humans.
This episode was taped before a live audience in Lisbon, Portugal.
From Zuckerman Spader. For 5 decades, Zuckerman Spader has been a leading litigation firm trusted by in-house and outside counsel, businesses, and individuals. With offices in Washington, Baltimore, New York, and Tampa, Zuckerman Spader serves clients throughout the country and around the world in high-stakes disputes, enforcement matters, investigations, and at trial. When the lawyer you choose matters most. Online at Zuckerman.com.
Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings. That's where Gusto comes in, to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on why you started your business in the first place. You know your business inside out. Gusto knows payroll, compliance, and benefits just as well, so you don't have to. Gusto is online payroll and benefits software built for small businesses. It's all-in-one, remote-friendly, and incredibly easy to use, so you can pay, hire, onboard, and support your team from anywhere. Save time with automated tools built right in. Offer letters, onboarding materials, direct deposit, and more. You also get direct access to certified HR experts to help support you through any tough HR situation. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/shift and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/shift. One more time, gusto.com/shift.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. All right, guys. How do we move quantum from scientific milestone to measurable business value? Where do we start?
To be honest, this is still a challenge.
Alex Glaetzle is the CEO and co-founder of the German startup Planqc.
Quantum computing slowly moves out from the lab to the industry. It takes some time. Still, in the next couple of years, we will need the strong synergy between research, between academic institutions, and between startups like us commercializing this technology. We have very clear plans to build quantum computer up to a few thousand qubits, but if you want to go to millions of qubits, then I think there are, for every technology, still challenges, and we have to achieve them from fundamental science, supply chain perspective, and startup perspective. Nevertheless, it's very important that we think about commercialization and creating value very early on. Basically, from day 0 on, when we started Planqc, we were reaching out to customers, and we have a 30 million contract, for example, with the German Aerospace Center. We have a 20 million project with the Leibniz Supercomputing Center, which is a tier 1 supercomputing center in Germany, because we want to develop those machines together with customers to understand their needs, to understand how we should develop it according to the market needs and not in the lab.
Yeah, and just to be clear, specifically, because not everybody in the audience will know Planqc, right? So specifically, what does Planqc do?
Well, we are building quantum computers based on neutral atoms. So we store information in a single atom. That's probably the smallest piece of information you can use in nature. We build on decades of fundamental research, Nobel Prizes, atomic clocks, for example, have a very similar technology. And in the end, we can trap them in a vacuum chamber in huge arrays with individual atoms and address them with laser light. That's how our quantum computer works. The fantastic thing is it scales very fast. Each atom is equal to each other, so we don't have to fabricate the qubits. They are super cold, million times colder than the coldest place in the universe, and still the entire machine, the entire apparatus works at room temperature. So that's our approach.
Théau, how are we going to move from the lab to business?
There's not going to be like a D-Day of rupture where that's it, the machine is out of the lab.
Théau Peronnin is the co-founder and CEO of the French company Alice & Bob.
When you think about it, all the good stuff is always hidden somewhere in the lab. And I think people are here in the audience today because they want to access that good stuff. Computing nowadays is all about accessing the capacity of arbitrage. It's getting that head start that lets you innovate, that lets you build product solutions that have an edge on the competition, on the established players. And this is exactly what quantum promises. It's a profound rupture in the capacity of what can or cannot be computed. Nowadays, you can already start playing with the first generation of quantum computers, prototypes. They're imperfect. They make some errors. It's normal. Quantum is tough. It's extremely fragile. But still, what is extremely exciting at the moment is that I believe we're at that tipping point nowadays where the technology is moving out of the lab and making tremendous progress. I mean, over the last 18 months, 2 years possibly, every modality, every type of machine of quantum computer, whether they're based on atoms, cold circuits, whatever your favorite modality, each and every one of them made some terrific progress towards ideal qubit or logical qubit, error-free qubit. And all the roadmaps converge around 2030, so in a quite sharp time frame, quite rapid time frame. And now is the day for developers to start building applications so that as soon as the hardware is here, you can start leveraging that arbitrage period and innovate faster than your competition. So I think it takes both of us, both us building the hardware, you building the applications to get the technology finally completely out of the lab and into the impact world of the data centers.
Right, and fair enough. Not completely out of the lab, you'll still be developing. But did you also want to add a bit more about what Alice & Bob does?
Yes, at Alice & Bob, we're also a hardware player building quantum computers. We do so on a very different platform, yet with the same ambition. We use superconducting circuits, so microwave chips operating in the gigahertz range, cooled down at very low temperature, about 10 millikelvin, in those, golden chandelier you might have seen, or if you Google quantum computer on Google Image, you'll find those exactly like that. But at Alice & Bob, we come with a twist. We redesign the main building block, the quantum bit, the elementary circuit that encodes quantum information, so that it directly incorporates quantum error correction within the design. And that tremendously simplifies the machine and gives us a very strong edge to build machines that have a high impact without requiring that many qubits, without requiring millions, but rather thousands of qubits to achieve that impact in the next 3 to 4 years.
I've been covering quantum not quite 10 years now, and I feel like the whole time it's been this story of hurry up and wait, and also like an amazing number of breakthroughs happening one after the other, but still, we've come so far and there's so far to go. How would you characterize the current state of the quantum industry today, maybe to help place everybody here where we are in time?
I think the first thing to know is that none of those previous breakthroughs were BS. I mean, pardon my French, but it's such a tremendous challenge when you think about it, where we're controlling bits of nature at such an intimate level with such a precise clockwork. And that takes so many breakthroughs to build very large, complex systems out of that clockwork. Now, I think the reason why today is very different than when you started maybe 8 years ago commenting on quantum is that now it's very hard to find a physicist doubting the feasibility of the machine, which was not the case 8 years ago.
Right.
Now you can be skeptical about the timelines we're going to claim, that's fair, but the machine is going to be here. And that's really different. Now the thing that is currently happening is that we're entering a scaling phase, meaning when I operate my company, I'm no longer only hiring physicists. Most of my new hires are engineers from very various fields, from microwave design all the way to software, with many different specialties included. And that really illustrates this change of paradigm. And the last thing is that we're seeing the major incumbents starting to weigh in. I think the signal NVIDIA is sending to the community, making quantum one of the key elements of their GTC events, and now with NVQ Link, the whole framework to enable developers to access quantum and build all that stack of technology we need to build, really shows that it's no longer a scientific curiosity, it's a proper engineering endeavor where the next few years are going to be thrilling. And I think if you're here today, is that you want to be part of it somehow.
Do you agree?
Absolutely. Couldn't say it better. And one point I think we should emphasize is quantum computing is not just the next logical step, making classical computers 2 times, 3 times faster. It's really a completely new paradigm. With quantum computers, for the very first time, you can solve problems which are completely inaccessible and will be inaccessible to any supercomputer mankind will ever build. Simple example, a simple molecule like aspirin or caffeine consisting of about 20, 30 atoms can be in 2 to the 48 different vibrational rotational states at the same time. So 10 to the 48, that's a number nobody has a feeling of, a number with 48 zeros. But that's roughly the number of atoms our planet Earth consists. So if you think about storing the information which can be quantum mechanically in such a simple molecule, classically, you need a hard drive, you need a solid state drive which uses every single atom of this planet to store it. That's how ridiculous it is. And quantum computers can tackle those problems for the very first time with a few hundred logical error-corrected qubits. And that has massive consequences for industries like pharma, for industries like material designs and chemistry in general, to think about personalized medicine. If you can reduce the development time of a new drug from 10 years now to a couple of months, and you can simulate that on a quantum computer, or given your DNA, your specific body, design a drug especially for you, personalized medicine. I mean, we are not there yet. This will take time, but this is my big dream. So if we talk about the ROI of quantum computing, we have to make sure that this is not just a linear prolongation of classical computing. This will be a new decade, a new revolution for mankind.
Yeah, I want to stay with applications for a minute, just because I think for most of us that is the reason to want a quantum computer, is to know what we do with it. What are some of the, like we talk a lot about drug discovery and other things, what are some of the other applications that maybe we haven't thought about yet in this room?
Well, the very first application was in cryptography. So Peter Shor invented an algorithm 1994, so more than 20 years ago, where he showed that you can break RSA encryption on something like a quantum computer exponentially faster. The funny thing is, at that time, nobody had even an idea how to build a quantum computer, but the first application was already there, of course, very much related to intelligence, to defense. And this sparked, I would say, interest around the globe to invest in quantum technologies. Now, this is probably the very first application, also from the resources, probably the very last we will implement. It requires millions of physical qubits, and this is still a long way to go. But everything where quantum effects are already in the problem, like I mentioned, designing drugs, simulating molecules, developing new materials. This is, I think, where quantum computing definitely will impact mankind and industries. Then there is a huge range of optimization problems. Optimization problems are basically everywhere, from finance to industry. There I'm slightly more skeptical. I mean, we look very heavily in these use cases. So far, I haven't seen any mathematical proof that there is really, at least not an exponential speed up there, but there is hope and definitely a lot of excitement also in that field. So that would be my 3 main applications. Maybe you have something to add.
You have it correctly. In my opinion, you have 2 main things that are proven: many-body quantum physics, so material chemistry and cryptography. But the audience needs to bear in mind how high the bar is at the moment to qualify as a quantum application. Meaning, today, to be considered as a proven quantum application, you need to be able to prove it pen and paper without the hardware, to prove that the quantum algorithm will do something no other classical computers can do. If you had the same bar for AI, there would be no AI at the moment, because no one can prove why those neural networks learn so fast. And this is kind of the expectation to which we hold quantum at the moment. And I think it's fair, because, as physicists, we love that kind of skepticism. But I can only be so optimistic about the next few years when so many engineers, developers are going to start tinkering around with our machines and develop so many genuine applications and things we have not thought about. Because so far, maybe a few thousand mathematicians have started thinking about quantum application, and that's it. So yeah, I think most of it remains to be discovered. But what we already know vastly justifies building the machines.
I think the real killer use case in 20, 30, 40 years, we have no idea about yet. And I think looking back in classical computing, if you go back to the 1940s, 50s, whoever imagined where we use classical computers now. So we always think about now, which applications we need now, but the real killer applications for quantum computers are yet to be discovered, and that makes it so exciting.
I mean, that certainly applies to our phones and everything else, right? And if we look back, you raise a number of good points. There's been, as we mentioned, a relatively large number of breakthroughs in recent years, and a lot of research. There's so much going on. What's, for each of you, one thing in particular that you're pretty excited about and focused on?
On my side, it's going to be error correction, because let's just take a minute to appreciate how ridiculously beautiful it is on a philosophical point. Because what it means to isolate perfectly or to have a perfect logical qubit with no errors means that you've decoupled 1 degree of freedom of your machine from the rest of the universe. It has no exchange of information whatsoever, no vibration, no smell, no whatever the channel you want to consider. And that is so beautiful that we can decouple part of our universe from the rest of it and yet start building machines from it. We're seeing the first few experiments of logical qubits around the globe, with, in my opinion, Google having the most notable one. And now we're seeing more and more modalities, more and more different, very different systems getting to that threshold. And from there, as soon as error correction becomes ubiquitous, we're entering the phase where we can build a machine that behaves quantum mechanically in a proper way for as long as you want. And that is so exciting.
Well, for me, obviously, working with single atoms, that's still something which fascinates me every day when I enter the lab. When imagining these tiny, tiny objects which you can only see through extremely good microscopes. Yeah. And we are on a level now, like building on decades of fundamental research and Nobel Prizes, where we can control single atoms, put them exactly where we want in laser beams, arrange them in space, observe them, and store information in a single atom. Isn't that crazy? That works like by changing the spin of the electron. If the electron in a simplified picture rotates clockwise or counterclockwise in a single atom, that's 0 or 1. And we can manipulate that. We can manipulate that with an extremely high accuracy now. And we are in the daily business doing that every day, but if you really sit back and think about what we are doing here, that's still fascinating, or will always be.
Absolutely. Well, all technology has a hype cycle, right? So, and quantum technology seems to have its very own special hype cycle. Where do you think we are in that cycle right now?
First of all, hypes are not something bad. So I think in particular, the hype about quantum computers cannot be high enough because the impact is so enormous that it will be massive for mankind. I think what's important is, beside the hype, that you have a realistic view on the timescales, and Théau mentioned it. I think most of the roadmaps converge now that end of this decade, 2030, we have roughly around 100 error-corrected qubits. So this is, I think, something we work on and we believe in very much. And this is the point where, for the very first time, I think industrial applications will emerge where there is no classical machine able to solve it. In the past few years, when we founded Planqc, people were always talking about quantum winter and there will be a dip. So far, I've never experienced that. And I think there will also be no quantum winter in the future. And what really makes me very optimistic is this accelerated speed now of really breakthroughs in different modalities, superconducting qubits, ions, neutral atoms. If you would have asked me 5 years ago what will be possible today, 2025, I wouldn't even dreamed about where we stand now. So this accelerated development really motivates me.
In my opinion, most of the growth is still ahead in terms of the sector. Some might think that there is some hype when you look at the valuation of some of the publicly traded company, but in my opinion, that's completely unfair. Take, for example, IonQ, which is one of our competitors, publicly traded on NASDAQ, valued about 20 billion-ish. This valuation is completely fair if you say that they have about 5% chance of success. But what they're aiming for is a $1 trillion company, because this is what quantum is about. It's the platform that will power the next whole generation of computing. And, you know, in the 21st century, computing is starting to play the same role as energy in the 20th century. In the 20th century, we transform matter for industry, and for that we use the energy. In the 21st century, we're transforming data and knowledge, and for that we're consuming computing. And quantum is just such a concentration of computing power. This is what will power the 21st century for sure. So, no, I think most of the growth is still ahead.
Okay, so what's next for the industry? I mean, you're kind of running at everything at once, right? It's not just about bringing down the cost and the complexity, but if you're looking out at the next 5 years, where are you putting your efforts?
We're at that point where we have a very clear idea on how we want to build that machine. Now it's about scaling it, building it large, fast, and start delivering impact for our customers. And just like for GPUs, it starts with high-performance computer centers that are our first customers, because they're at the leading edge of what computers can do. And then it will be more and more broadly available in data centers. And from there, what I'm really excited about or looking forward to is the first main discovery enabled, triggered by the access to a quantum computer. Something that has no relationship directly to quantum, but that could not have been made without such a machine.
What about you, Alex? What are you going to be watching?
Well, I think the next 5 years will be extremely exciting, because we all have these common goals of building machines with few 10,000 physical qubits, a few hundred logical qubits, and that's for the very first time where you can do something useful, industry relevant, and this will have massive impact. And I expect that both on the algorithm, on the software side, there will be improvements. On the hardware side, there will be improvements, and some of these ballparks, they will shift, and probably we'll see the first application sooner than later.
I think so. All right, we've been in our final minute and a half or so. What do you want everyone here to leave with? What's the final takeaway they should pick up from this talk?
I would say we need first movers. We need exciting industry customers who are happy to work with us, to start early, because in the end, programming a quantum computer, using a quantum computer is completely different. So you need talent on the software side, not only on the hardware side. We work with companies like Airbus, German Railway Systems, German Aerospace Center, and we need much more of them. And this is my pitch.
It's your pitch. What about you?
For me, I would say two things. The first one is that it's not very hard to learn quantum computing. Learning quantum mechanics is very hard, but to learn quantum computing, you only need some basic linear algebra, and I guess many of you are completely well equipped to understand that. And the second thing is that you definitely should start learning quantum now, because there is so much opportunity to create new businesses on that platform. I mean, you can think of all those great businesses that were born with AI. I don't know, thinking about the equivalent of Hugging Face for quantum. It has no equivalent yet, and you have so many things that can be built around quantum to power and leverage the great machines and engines that we're providing to the world. So yeah, a lot of opportunities for you to leverage in quantum.
Oh, this has been a lot of fun. You both raised a number of good points. Thank you very much, and thank all of you very much for being here.
This episode was produced by me and Emma Cillekens and mixed by Garret Lang, with original music from him and Jacob Gorski. Thanks for listening. I'm Jennifer Strong.
We've all done it. Stock our fridge with good intentions, only to sacrifice nutrition for convenience. Keep your body and mind nourished with whole body meal shakes from Kachava. It's got 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, and so much more. But it actually tastes delicious. Try one of Kachava's indulgent flavors today. Shop now through December 2nd to get 30% off your first purchase of 2 or more bags. Go to kachava.com and use code FITNESS. That's KACHAVA.com, code FITNESS.
From